Alex Vasadate in the School of Geography here at the University of Oxford. And I think the last paper actually answers some of my questions that I was going to ask Christoph, which is actually inviting the UN Habitat to actually do more work in the UK, which I think is actually urgently necessary, though politically challenging. But one of the points you ended your presentation on was about the need to sort of create new kinds of synergies with academics here. So, I mean, my comment is really that would be absolutely brilliant, and I think the CASH project that we just described may be one point of intersection with some of the interests that you described. My very quick question was something that you said at the beginning was about evictions and forced evictions in particular, and obviously the issue of displacement and dispossession is one that in some ways unites urban scholars across the global north and south, and I was just wondering where you see UN Habitat moving on the question of evictions in a kind of policy sense, but also in a more practical one as well. So, but thank you to everyone for a really interesting presentation.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think that the idea of the partnership with like the academia is like very important to UN Habitat. I think it has always been very present, but now we see increasingly, working with member states, that there is really like lots of opportunities working at country level. We're opening doors. I mean, we work on these like policy frameworks, but very often it's actually very frustrating because 5 years down the line you are called back and say, well, now we want to update the policy and nothing has happened. So I think that will be like very important, and it's also in terms of resources. As a UN program, we don't have all the resources to be able to implement some very interesting projects, but we'll be very happy to be like the bridges in between like different type of activities. On the forced eviction questions, I think that there is we are very conservative on that because this is a very important issue. We are still facing the same challenges in the same type of context. So we have like very strong mechanism in place together with the Official High Commissioner for Human Rights. In particular, the Special Rapporteur on the right to adequate housing, she is very vocal and very active on these issues. So we have like an important role to play, like with national governments when we are, informed about cases of forced evictions. However, I mean, we are also binded by like the rules and regulations, so there is so much that we can do. But we have like lots of normative tools, and we try to provide like communities affected by evictions with like some sort of advice on how to really promote and protect their rights. But this is like really, out of all the work that we're doing, this is really like part of it's really like the essence of the work that we're doing on the right to adequate housing.
Maybe one more question, but brief please, because I didn't run over.
Thank you. Hi, Duncan Burns. I'm here. I've been working in various parts of the municipalities that you're referring to over time. What I'm wondering is that there's a long history of, in the sense of knowledge of the global north, for want of a better term, being taken to the global south and actually being adapted then and trying to be used. And I think we've seen that for a very long time. What I'm wondering is some of the things, particularly I was looking at, I was thinking about some of the points you were making about co-production and some of the participatory methods and things like that. We're all looking for innovation in whatever context we're in. The UK needs that just as much in its context or its situation as you do in many of the municipalities you're talking about. And what I'm wondering is, is there a place where, and perhaps it's one of your places, a space where the sort of the feedback loop, for want of a better term, from some of the things that are going on in the global south can be seen to or can be discussed about how they could be used innovatively here, because it seems to me really isn't a one-way street at all, even though we very often think of the global south as being the recipient of the knowledge from here. I'm just wondering, is there a space where that's taking place? And because it would be very useful to know.
I very much agree with you, and this is something that we will hopefully do at the end of this project. I mean, the whole idea is we talk about replication of methodologies and methods rather than actual outputs. So the actual solution there, obviously you cannot take it and apply it from South Africa, for example, to a London borough, for example, that has some social housing issues there. However, the tools and processes you can, particularly when involving local residents, when involving people in decision-making processes, and of course, if we want to talk about active engagement, community engagement, at some point, and ideally, once we have a toolkit developed, this is something that we want to test in other areas as a separate funding program, because this, obviously, there's a lot of lessons to be learned both ways. But unfortunately, you need the time to allow for testing, because from my experience at least, the worst mistakes are made when we generalize from 3 specific case studies in Durban, even to other places in South Africa, because there are these unique case studies, specific contexts, factors that we need to take into account and understand why this have encouraged innovation or not in these places.
Great. So watch your site probably
yes.
is the thing. So, yes.
Hopefully, yeah, this is something that interests us all as a project team.
Great. It'd be nice to have more of a chat about that.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
I think on that note, things like community land trusts and cooperative forms of ownership, there's a lot of bidirectional potential, but probably pretty interesting as well. We're well over, so maybe we can take the questions out into the topic. Thanks. Thank you to our panelists.